Yo, what's up guys? Today we're going to look at something a little different. We're going to look at the Japanese Danganronpa Character Popularity Polls and see how it differs from what people think about Danganronpa in the West. Now, a big difference I've seen between the Japanese fanbase and the Western fanbase is that the Japanese fanbase is majority females, whereas the Western fanbase seems to be more mixed. This may seem unimportant, but it's actually a big factor when it comes to character popularity. Now, let's start with the Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc poll. Hifumi places in 17th, which makes sense. I mean, in the West, people don't like him that much either. Then the next four is where it gets interesting. In 16th, we have Toko. In 15th, we have Genocider Show. In 14th, we have Aoi Asahina. And in 13th, we have Sakura Ogami. Now, these are some highly loved characters here in the West. But I think I can explain one of the character placements here, and that would be Sakura Ogami. It seems like in Japan, the buff characters do not get that much love. I mean, Nekomaru placed 16th in the Danganronpa 2 poll, Gonta placed 12th in the Danganronpa V3 poll, and Akane placed 15th in the Danganronpa 2 poll. I don't really know if you count Akane as a buff character, but it's implied that she's really buff, so I decided to include her as well. Now, I don't know if these characters are just really low because they're buff, but I think these characters are usually more well received here in the West, especially Sakura and Gonta, so I do think there might be some dislike towards the buff characters, and maybe that's just a cultural thing, I'm not really sure. I do know in Japan though, it's preferred if you have a more skinnier physique, so maybe that's why. It also seems like the big breasted girls don't do that well. I mean, Aoi placed 14th in the Danganronpa poll, which is very surprising. And then Akane placed 15th in the Danganronpa 2 poll. But then V3 breaks the chain with Miyu placing 4th. That's right, 4th. My god. As for Toko's unpopularity, I thought it may have to do with her simping over Byakuya, who's the most popular Danganronpa 1 character. But then I looked over at Danganronpa 2 and Kazuichi placed 7th in the DR2 poll, while the girl he was simping over placed in 11th. So yeah, that theory is probably incorrect. Let's try and go a bit quicker with the Danganronpa 1 poll. So right off the bat, with number 12, we have another weird one, Mukury Casaba. I don't know how she made it up here without barely having any screen time, but she did. This was before If, I'm pretty sure, so yeah, it's kind of weird. Then you realize that Sayaka placed 7th, and Leon placed 6th. Now, I can understand liking these characters, but I do find it weird that they placed over characters that got a lot more screen time, like Mondo, Junko, Celeste, and Yasuhiro. And by the way, I'm really happy about Yasuhiro's placement in the poll, because if this was the West, you know he'd be in dead last. But because Sayaka and Leon play so high, I can't help but thinking appearance has a lot to do with the rankings here. This is confirmed with the Danganronpa 2 poll, where you can actually see the results broken up by gender. So for Danganronpa 2, you have a poll which shows the popularity ranking that includes everyone's vote, but then there's also a ranking that takes male voters only, and then another ranking that takes female voters only. For the males, the top 3 most popular characters from 1 to 3 were Chiaki, Mikan, and Ibuki. Now with the female votes, the top 3 were Nagito, Gundam, and Chiaki, because well, everyone likes Chiaki. But I think we can see something going on here. Basically, the guys like their waifus, and the girls like their husbandos. Now, because there are more female fans in Danganronpa, at least in Japan, male characters tend to be more popular on average. In the Danganronpa 1 poll, 4 out of the 5 characters in the top 5 are male. The exact same thing is going on with the Danganronpa 2 poll, with the Danganronpa V3 poll actually not following the rule at all. Wow. Also, can we just mention how much more popular Makoto is in Japan? This guy got 2nd. Hajime got 5th in the Danganronpa 2 poll, which means Makoto might be more popular than Hajime. Unless the fans just really like the Danganronpa 2 cast way more than 1's cast. But I do think we can say appearance plays a bigger role for how popular a character is in Japan than here in the West. Something that clearly shows this is Rantaro's placement on the Danganronpa V3 poll. My guy was 6th out of the V3 cast, even though he died 1st. Now if you break down how popular Rantaro was by gender, he ranked 6th among the female voters, and 14th among the male voters. Again, this shows appearance matters for a character's popularity, and it shows that there are a lot more female fans than male fans over in Japan. At least the ones that are voting, because the guys literally voted this guy the third least popular character, but the girls' votes kept Rantaro in the same position. If you want more proof that the appearance really affects a character's popularity, we got Ryoma, who I thought was much better than Rantaro, and he placed 15th in the V3 poll. Ranked 16th for women and 11th for men. I think here in the West, Ryoma is received much better and Rantaro much worse. That could also just be because the fan base here is more evenly split in terms of gender than it is in Japan. Now I'll show you guys the ranking for the Danganronpa 2 cast. One of the biggest surprises here is Sonya. I thought she would be a lot more popular, but she actually ranked pretty low. And it's interesting to take note that Hiyoko ranked 9th, which isn't super high, but it seems really high for Hiyoko, at least higher than what I think most American fans would rank her. And honestly, V3's poll makes a lot of sense to me. I think the ones I'm most confused with are Rantaro and Gonta, who I already talked about. I feel like they should just swap the spots, to be honest. I think Gonta should be 6th and Rantaro 12th. But one thing I'm super happy about is Kaito's placement. I think Kaito is way more popular here, and I find Kaito really annoying. I mean, I can just do another video for that. I mean, bro, that guy gets on my nerves. But I'm just really happy that he's fairly low on the list. But I think one of the reasons why this might be the case is because the Japanese version of Kaito uses homophobic slurs and says things like, "Girls should stay in the kitchen," which hinders his popularity. These are really just things I heard. I don't know this as 100% fact. But yeah, it's just rumors on the internet that I heard. I don't see why people would lie about that, but yeah. So just to finish things off, let's look at the most surprising placements for each game. Danganronpa 1 definitely has the most. The biggest shocks are Aoi, Sakura, Yasuhiro, Sayaka, Leon, and Makoto. I thought Aoi and Sakura would be much higher up, with the other 4 taking lower placements. Byakuya also being at number 1 might come as a shock for many, because there are a lot of people who despise him. In Danganronpa 2, the shocks are Nekomaru, Akane, Sonya, Hiyoko, and Hajime. I thought Nekomaru and Akane would be a bit higher, especially Akane. It's surprising that Sonya is so low, and that Hiyoko is kinda up there. And what's really surprising is that Hajime seems to be lacking in popularity compared with the other 2 pro tags. But that might just be because fans really like Danganronpa 2's cast a lot more. I'm not too sure about that one. And finally, in V3, the surprises for me are Rantaro, Kaito, and Gonta. I thought Rantaro would be lower and Kaito and Gonta would be higher. So yeah, these are the main differences with character popularity, and there are quite a few differences here. Comment down which of these rankings surprised you the most, cause a lot surprised me in this one. Later guys, peace.